You're 42 and still not married? Maybe if somebody actually wanted her, she wouldn't keep showing up to family reunions alone.
You're 42 and still not married? The room erupted with laughter. Maybe if somebody actually wanted her, she wouldn't keep showing up to family reunions alone. But 3 months later, the same people laughing at her were standing outside a hospital room, crying. Because the woman they mocked had become the only person who could save them. If this is your first time on my channel, please subscribe right now and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful story. Trust me, today's story will take you somewhere you never expected. Stay until the end, because the final revelation changes everything. Now, let's begin. Everyone in the Parker family had an opinion about Naomi. At 42 years old, Naomi Parker had never been married. No husband, no fiancé, no wedding photos hanging on the wall. Nothing. At least, that's what people saw. Every Sunday after church in Atlanta, somebody found a way to remind her. A beautiful woman like you shouldn't still be single. You need to lower your standards. Time isn't waiting for anybody. The words came wrapped in smiles, but Naomi knew exactly what they meant. Something must be wrong with her. At family gatherings, the married women sat together discussing husbands and children. Naomi sat alone. At weddings, she was always the bridesmaid, never the bride. At baby showers, people asked when her turn was coming, as if life was some race she had forgotten to run. The worst was her cousin Renee. Renee had been married 3 times and acted like she was an expert on relationships. Every chance she got, she humiliated Naomi. One summer evening, the entire family gathered for Grandma Louise's 75th birthday. More than 50 relatives filled the backyard. Music played, children ran around, food covered every table. Everything was perfect until Renee stood up holding a microphone. "Let's make a toast." Everyone cheered. Renee smiled. "I want to celebrate Grandma and all the beautiful marriages in our family." People clapped. Then her eyes landed on Naomi. Well, almost all the marriages. Laughter exploded across the yard. Naomi felt her face burn. Some people are still waiting for Prince Charming. More laughter. Even worse, nobody defended her. Not one person. Tell me honestly, have you ever sat in a room full of people and felt completely alone? Have you ever smiled while your heart was breaking? Let me know in the comments, because Naomi's story might remind you of someone you know. That night, Naomi cried in her car before driving home. What nobody knew was that she wasn't single because nobody wanted her. She was single because 10 years earlier, she had discovered something that destroyed her ability to trust. A man she loved had proposed. She had said yes. 3 weeks before the wedding, she learned he had another family in another state. Another woman. Another child. Another life. The betrayal nearly broke her. After that, Naomi focused on building her business instead. And she succeeded. While everyone else watched her relationship status, Nobody noticed she had quietly built one of Atlanta's most successful home health care companies. But money couldn't stop loneliness. Some nights, she wondered if everyone was right. Maybe she had missed her chance. Maybe love wasn't meant for her.
Then, one rainy Tuesday afternoon, her phone rang. The call ID showed a number she didn't recognize. She almost ignored it. That decision would change everything. Hello? The voice on the other end sounded weak. Is this Naomi Parker? Yes. There was a pause. Then the stranger said something that made her blood run cold. I think your father has been lying to your family for over 40 years. Naomi nearly dropped the phone. Her father had died 5 years earlier. How could a stranger know anything about him? And why call now? The voice continued. You have a sister. Naomi froze. A sister? What happens next will leave you stunned. Because Naomi was about to discover that her family's biggest secret had been hiding in plain sight all along. Naomi couldn't sleep. The stranger's words echoed through her mind. You have a sister. The next morning, she agreed to meet the caller. The woman waiting at the cafe looked nervous. She appeared to be around 38 and strangely familiar. When she smiled, Naomi almost stopped breathing. She had her father's smile. The woman introduced herself. My name is Vanessa. Then she handed Naomi a folder. Inside were photographs, birth certificates, letters, DNA results, evidence, overwhelming evidence. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Vanessa was telling the truth. Their father had lived a secret life for decades. Naomi felt anger, sadness, confusion. But surprisingly, she also felt relief. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't alone. Over the next several months, the sisters built a relationship. Slowly, carefully, honestly. Something Naomi had been missing her entire life. Meanwhile, back at home, another crisis was brewing. Remember Renee, the cousin who mocked Naomi every chance she got? Her third husband had secretly emptied their bank accounts, then disappeared. Everything collapsed. The marriage, the finances, the image she spent years protecting. Suddenly, the woman who laughed at Naomi was facing bankruptcy. Then came an even bigger tragedy. Grandma Louise suffered a severe medical emergency. The family rushed her to the hospital. Doctors delivered devastating news. Treatment would be expensive. Very expensive. Insurance wouldn't cover everything. Panic spread through the family. People began arguing. Nobody knew what to do. Then, Naomi quietly walked into the room and made a decision. She covered every expense. Every single one. The room fell silent. The same relatives who mocked her now stared at her in disbelief. Renee burst into tears. For the first time, she looked ashamed. "I spent years making fun of you." Naomi smiled gently. "You were hurting too. I just didn't know it." Friends, what would you have done? Would you help people who spent years humiliating you? Or would you walk away? Think about that for a moment. Because Naomi's greatest victory wasn't financial. It was emotional. She refused to become bitter. Weeks later, Grandma recovered. The family gathered again. This time, there were no jokes, no insults, no whispers.
Instead, Grandma Louise stood and addressed everyone. "I've watched this family measure success the wrong way." The backyard became quiet. We celebrated weddings and ignored character. Heads lowered. We praised appearances and overlooked kindness. Tears filled many eyes. Then she pointed at Naomi. "The strongest person in this family isn't the one with a husband." She paused. "It's the one who kept loving people who didn't deserve it." People began crying openly. But the biggest surprise was still coming. 6 months later, Naomi attended a community charity event. A man approached her. Not because he wanted something. Not because he felt sorry for him. Not because of her money. He had simply noticed the way she treated people. His name was Marcus, a widowed school principal, a good man, patient, kind, honest. The exact opposite of the man who broke her heart years ago. Their friendship grew naturally. No rushing, no games, no pretending. 1 year later, Marcus got down on one knee. And this time, Naomi didn't feel fear. She felt peace. When the wedding day arrived, something remarkable happened. Renee stood beside her as maid of honor. Vanessa sat in the front row. Grandma Louise smiled through tears. And every person who once mocked Naomi stood to applaud. Not because she was finally getting married, but because they finally understood her worth had never depended on marriage in the first place. The woman they pitied had become the woman they admired. And just when Naomi thought life couldn't surprise her anymore, Vanessa handed her a small envelope after the reception. Inside was another photograph, another face, another secret. A note was attached. It read, "I think Dad had one more child." But that's a story for another day. If you enjoyed this story, tell me in the comments, what was the biggest lesson you learned from Naomi's journey? And if you were Naomi, would you have forgiven the family? These words are for you. Your value is not determined by your relationship status. People often judge what they can see while ignoring the battles you have survived.
kindness is most powerful when given to those who least deserve it. Patience can bring the right people into your life at the right time. Never measure success by appearances. Character will always matter more. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notification for more powerful stories like these. Bye for now. Histoire pas claire.